We're going to go to Romans chapter 2, because that's the best place in this book where it explains why. Romans chapter 2 is on page 262. Now, Romans chapter 2, when he's talking to you, Y-O-U, he's not talking to an individual. He's talking to the real us, which is one mind, one spirit. So when he says you, he means the one us. Okay, I tend to use the word us because it's so inclusive. But he's talking to the one us. If you look at the second paragraph, which starts with sentence 7, he says, imagine yourself with this idea, for this was the idea that you had. In this particular place, he's talking about before the world was ever born, before the world was ever thought of. All right? This is the idea that crossed our mind. What if nothing was as it is? Now, we've just described as it is. It's all light. It's all love. It's all one. The question crossed our mind, but what if nothing was as it is? What if I could make something completely different and make it whatever I want? What would that be like? Okay, so this is the wish that was in our mind. Okay, it is what it is. It's all light, it's all love, but we said, what if it was something different? What would that be like? Now you got to remember, the mind that asked this question was a divine mind. So continuing on, starting with sentence 11. Your idea was just a curiosity, a daydream of exploration, and really nothing at all, since the first question asked sets up an impossible hypothesis and one that can never be true. That first question asked was, what if nothing was as it is? It says that's impossible. It's impossible. We're all one. It's all light. It's all love. It's all God. It's impossible for anything else to happen. So it's just a curiosity, just a daydream, just a thought, because what is can never ever change. And sometimes people have trouble grasping this idea, so I like to explain it in very worldly terms. So let's imagine that right now it's pouring down rain outside today and you had planned to go boating. If you want to, you can sit here and say, I wish it wasn't raining. You can say that all you want, but it's still raining. Well, that's the same thing here. We can say, I wish it was different than it is. I wish it wasn't all God. It still is. You can wish it as long as you want, but you can never change it. However, because we're talking about a divine mind, it can create the experience of it being different. And that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at how we create the experience of it being different without actually changing a thing. Okay? So let's continue with this for now. Let's start with sentence 12. But in your freedom, because of course we're perfectly free, which means there are no restrictions, right? But in your freedom and the innocence of your curiosity, you set out to think a little more. You needed a tool to create this experience that would allow you to explore. The building block that you made was judgment or decision, and this became a new creative force. We also call this thinking, having options. This is something that never existed before, and we kind of created this. Now again, if you think about thinking, remember, thinking is nothing concrete. It's just something that goes on in the head in our experience. So thinking is not really anything real. Okay, it doesn't change a thing. I can think all I want. I wish it was a sunny day. I wish it was a sunny day. I wish it was a sunny day. It's still a rainy day. Okay, so in that way, in this example, in that way thinking is nothing. And we'll talk later about how thinking develops experience. But it develops experience. It doesn't change reality. All right, so that's the line we have to change. It develops an experience similar to a daydream. That's why people call this a dream or an illusion. But it can't change reality. Thinking cannot change reality. It can just create experiences. Okay? So you needed a tool to create this experience that would allow you to explore. The building block that you made was judgment or decision, and this became a new creative force. It allowed for experience without creation, which means it didn't make anything new. And from judgment, experience was made. So what we are having is an experience. It's an experience. An experience. With judgment made to build experience, you needed something to judge. You needed a place to start making this experience of something different than it is. So you took what you had, an idea in the mind, and you applied judgment to that. When judgment was applied, something new was made. So your experience began immediately. Suddenly before you were two options set, and for the first time ever you had a decision to make. So this is the birth of duality. And again, what we had in our mind was, what if nothing was as it is? So we asked that question, and two options came as possible answers to the question. This is the creation of duality. And for the first time, instead of just as it is, we have a this and a that to choose from. I call them option A and option B. So, option A starts at sentence 7. Your curiosity was nothing and did not mean a thing, so nothing at all had changed. This was an option given to consider, and it offered the opportunity to laugh. So option A was, it is as it is and it can't be different. Option A was the truth. All right? It is as it is and it can't be different. Option A was the truth. But the second was different and led deeper into the game. It was an opportunity to believe that the idea had become so and nothing is as it was. That's option B. Option B is non-truth. Struck with the second option. Here we go, guys. Struck with the second option, you became engrossed by it, and you tossed the first option aside. Faced with reality and the option of fantasy, you chose to step into fantasy. It doesn't change anything. You can imagine in human terms, it's just like going into a daydream. Okay, everything still is as it is, and that's what the Apple experience proves. All right? But we're in a fantasy. It was at this point that you began to forget, and you practiced the game of judgment again. Now, the forgetting had to happen, because we couldn't truly have the experience of it being different than it was if we remembered how it was. So the forgetting had to happen. It was a part of the creative process, you could call it. It's the only way to truly have the experience. But this time in error, here's where the mistake came. You judged yourself for what was not true, and you believed your judgment of yourself. So this is where, if you want to say things went bad, if you want to say that, this is where things started to go bad, is that we started to have an experience that was completely different than any experience we had before, and then there's kind of an what have I done here? And we judged ourselves as having done something wrong, and then we believed our own judgment.